When I was at school, I wanted to become a journalist. I was really fascinated in that job, in doing the research, in making other people understand complicated subjects, and I really tried to do a career in this to the extent that I, while still at school, worked at the local newspaper. I helped with volunteering for youth newspapers, and I spent a lot of time starting a career as a journalist. I actually never thought I would have a career in science. As I said, I wanted to become a journalist. I wanted to travel the world, understand complex topics, write about them, maybe even be lucky enough to become a TV journalist. And I started my science career because I wanted a degree in something interesting that could be useful for a journalist career. And I pursued both in parallel, studying and trying to get a journalist career, up until I had to write my final thesis. When I had to write my final thesis, time management became impossible, so I started to focus more on science, and I discovered how much I liked it. And I thought, oh, I could go on a little bit. I write a PhD thesis, just that, and then I become a journalist. And for some reason, it never happened, because I was lucky enough to get a PhD working on Martian meteorites. It was there, it was fascinating, I was interested in the topic. I never thought I would sit here many years later and say, why did I ever become a planetary scientist? It just happened, and I must say I was just lucky. I always had mentors. I always had people who believed in me and who took me from where I was and helped me the next step. And one of them is certainly my PhD advisor. And we in Germany, we call them Dr. Vater, which has the word father in them. I still talk to him a lot, and he is one of my mentors who helped me along the way and who shaped who I am today as a scientist. I never choose space science chose me. I was lucky enough to get my PhD done in an area which I could never have planned, because it was about noble gases in Martian meteorites. What attracted me to apply for this PhD was the analytics that came with it, not so much the Martian meteorites. And only during my PhD, I actually fell in love with the subject of space science, and then pursued it from there. So when I started to study science, my idea was to become a journalist and use the knowledge that I had gained through that studying science to apply it to all the problems that need discussing in the world right now. For example, environmental issues, issues of health and safety. And so I thought studying science would help me with that. However, then I decided to get a PhD, and it was at that point that I discovered that I like science so much that I might want to change my career. And it wasn't up until I really held my PhD degree that I thought to try to become a scientist like so many of the colleagues I had come to know by this point. I had to do hard choices twice in my career path. When I was an undergraduate student, I also did internships with newspapers. And there was one day when I just had finished a 3-month internship in the summer break when I didn't have to go to university. I had returned to my university town, and I was just about to pursue my studies again when the phone rang one afternoon, and they offered me a permanent job at a newspaper. Here was I, a year before finishing my studies, and they offered me that permanent job. Would I want to drop my studies, not finish my degree, and take that permanent job or not? I decided to finish the degree first. Of course, that job was gone forever, but I decided to finish the degree first. So I continued my study. I got my diploma, which is equivalent to a master degree today, and then I went on to get my PhD. Thereafter, I never made a conscious decision to abandon journalism. I just always made the decision to do the next step on a science career. I got an undergraduate degree in mineralogy. I choose University of Mainz in Germany because Mainz also had a very respected newspaper where I could work at. So I could work at that newspaper and study for my degree in the same town. Well, after my undergraduate degree, like the diploma degree, I went on to get a PhD. I worked at Max Planck Institute for Chemistry during that, and I finished my PhD. After that, I decided if I want to become a scientist, if I want to pursue that career, I need to get some postdoc time in. So I need to work for 2 or 3 years on fixed-term contracts at different institutes around the world. And what I really liked was the idea to work abroad. So I went to Houston, Texas, and worked at the Lunar and Planetary Institute for 2 years. And then I came to the OU, first as a postdoc, then as a fellow, now I'm a lecturer. And that's pretty much the standard route that you take to become a scientist. I think what stands out in my career so far most is that I have the chance to work with the NASA Mars Science Laboratory mission. I am one of close to 500 scientists. I work with John Bridges in Leicester, who is the PI of our little team, and we are helping to study Mars through the eyes of the Curiosity rover, which I think is a great privilege and the best thing that happened to me in my life. During a career in science, there are always times where it's really hard going. One thing is what I like to call the mid-thesis disease, when you are about half through your PhD and you feel that all doesn't make sense, you are overwhelmed by all the data, and that's a point where you really need help. Other points occur whenever a contract comes to an end and you're really worried, am I able to solicit that next position? Or for that matter, will I ever be able to get a permanent position anywhere? And to me, it's always mentors, other people, senior to me or peers, who have helped me through these times. Of course, you think of leaving science when it's really hard going. You apply, you maybe have written 20, 30 applications at some point, and you still haven't found that next position, and the contract comes up in 3 months from now, and you really don't know where to go. And that's the points where you seriously think whether you want a career change. But if you then talk to your peers, they are all in the same boat. It's part of that process to become a scientist at an institute like the Open University. And because of these short-term contracts, it's just part of it. And it's always very important to me to have people who help me, mentors, people to talk to and to find out I'm not alone in this. And it's not because I'm not good enough, but it's because we are all in that same boat.